Hello, my curious cats, and welcome back to another episode of the Say Psychology podcast, the podcast for all the info on psychology's most questionable history. I'm your host, Leslie Lopez, PhD student and psychology nerd. So, hey, how y'all doing?
Hey, how y'all doing?
Man, it's been some time. I promise you guys I'm still alive, clearly. Somewhat dead inside, but still alive. Unfortunately. I'm kidding. I did miss you guys. I miss this whole thing. I truly did. It's just been a chaotic couple of months. And I know I say that like almost every episode, but when I mean chaotic, I mean chaotic, okay? Like, I apologize. I literally can say I apologize. I missed you all. I really did. It's just been chaotic. I'm just going through a lot of changes right now, career-wise, academic-wise, personal-wise. I think mostly career-wise, but that's a big thing in my life and right now, and it's taken up a lot of my time, and it's kind of meshed in with the rest of my life, but we're getting back into it. We're getting things settled. I'm getting organized. It's the new year, 2026. Let's go. Although, honestly, I'm not much of a superstitious kind of person. Like, I don't think that we should wait for a new year for a fresh start. Like, I'm a strong believer that if you wait for the perfect time to do something, you're never going to do that something, just because the perfect time never exists, at least not in my book. It's just one of those things, like, I truly believe, let go and let God. But that's just me, and maybe some unresolved traumas along the way, but we're not going to get into that right now. But anyways, we're here. Fun fact about me that I'm sure I've mentioned on multiple occasions because it's one of my favorite fun facts about myself, but I am a twin. Fraternal, but a twin nonetheless. My twin brother, Brian, is my absolute best friend. I would quite literally do anything for him. I would kill for him. I would die for him, but I would not let him borrow my MacBook or my iPhone charger. But if there's one thing about psychology and psychology research, is that it loves a good twin study. So I got to thinking, about all the different twin studies I've learned about thus far and research. Like, are there any new ones out there that I've never heard of? And that's when I landed on Josef Mengele. There's a lot on Josef, not just his twin experimentation, okay? Like, I'll try my best to cover as much of the twin experiments in detail as I possibly can for this episode, but know that there's a lot, it's a lot, and he's a lot. So if you're a little bit insane on the membrane like me, get cozy tozy, and let's jump into it. Josef Mengele. Spelled Josef Mengele, but it's a German name, so it's pronounced Josef Mengele. Josef had a pretty simple life growing up. I mean, as simple as I can get in the early 1900s Germany. Born March 16th, 1911. A Pisces. If you've been here long enough, you know that I have some strong opinions about Pisces men. Not good ones. I can't stand them. I'm sorry. Just Pisces in general as a fixed earth sign. I just can't stand y'all. But anyways, Joseph was born and raised in Günzburg, Germany, in a Catholic home. His dad owned a company that produced and sold military equipment such as specialized wagons for military transport and parts for deploying naval mines. In 1933, his father joined the Nazi Party, which, as you could guess, played a huge role in Josef's upbringing. So much so that as a teenager, he joined the Greater German Youth League, a right-wing youth group where he served as a leader. After high school, Josef quickly went on to study medicine at the University of Munich and went on to earn his PhD in anthropology. During his residency, he studied under the right wing of Theodor Malischen, a physical anthropologist and proponent of the pseudoscience of scientific racism. Keep that in mind, okay? I mean, Josef's dissertation alone was dedicated to proving that measurements of the lower jaw could be used to determine race. Why, Josef? Why do you want to know that? Josef himself officially joined the Nazi Party in 1937, where he was hired as an infantry physician. Yes, as in working with children. He received basic training in 1938 and was called up for official service in the Nazi armed forces in June of 1940. Now, this episode could easily turn into a World War II history lesson, but I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to skip over some background information. I'm sorry, okay? But essentially, Josef was appointed chief medical officer at Auschwitz in 1943. Some of his duties included making weekly visits to the hospital barracks and ordered prisoners who hadn't recovered after 2 weeks of being bedridden to be sent to the gas chambers. Another part of his work involved carrying out the selection of arrivals, including sorting new arrivals into those who would be admitted to the camp and those who would be killed immediately. It was during the selection process that Josef would visit the selection ramp when not on duty in hopes to locate sets of twins. Josef used his power at Auschwitz as an opportunity to continue his medical research, specifically on heredity. He was particularly interested in studying identical twins, people with dwarfism, and just people with physical abnormalities in general. Twin research was of particular interest to Josef. In his studies, one twin could serve as a subject with the other as the control. Since Josef played a vital role in the selection of victims, he viewed the opportunity to undertake twin research at Auschwitz as unique because having access to so many sets of twins was unheard of. As I mentioned earlier, part of Josef's camp duties included so-called selections. Essentially, the purpose of these selections was to identify persons who were unable to work. The SS considered such persons as useless and therefore murdered them. During these elections, Josef collected hundreds of pairs of twins from among the Jews who arrived at Auschwitz. According to historical records, Josef had managed to experiment on over 700 pairs of twins. It is so important that I emphasize that these twin experiments are just the tip of the iceberg for Josef. I could do multiple episodes on Josef and his multiple human experiments, honestly. I mean, in fact, I could probably do a whole season dedicated to Josef himself, but I'm not going to do that. I mean, I don't think so. I mean, I don't know. Maybe we'll circle back to Josef in later seasons. We'll see. But back to the twins for today. In case I hadn't clocked you just yet, Josef was absolutely fascinated with twins. He was interested in the differences between both identical and fraternal twins, including how genetic diseases originated and affected them. His experiments also distinguished between genetic traits and traits developed by the environment of the child. So basically, our good old nature versus nurture debate. Josef's medical background mixed with his amount of power he had allowed him to operate on children without their or the parents' consent. And by children, I mean as young as newborn, I mean as young as fetus. And we'll get into that in a bit, okay? He would operate on these children to find genetic weaknesses in the makeup of Jewish and Gypsy people, thereby providing scientific evidence for the ideas of the Nazi Party. In layman's terms, Josef was searching for a scientific justification for the Nazi Party's treatment of Jews and Gypsies. He hypothesized that his subjects/victims were particularly vulnerable to certain diseases because of their race, and they had degenerative blood and tissue, and therefore the need of eugenics and all the Nazi Party's ideology was valid, at least according to Josef. Twin children were one of his main subject groups. Some may say they were his, quote, involuntary guinea pigs, unquote. Others, me, are going to call him for what they were, his victims. These victims were delivered to well-supplied barracks where Josef conducted his grisly and, more often than not, fatal surgical experiments in a pseudo-scientific quest to uncover the secrets of genetics. It's said that Josef was able to earn the trust of many of his victims because of his handsome smile and soft touch when approaching his victims and then administering these operations. Handsome is a word, but what do I know? Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't know. Maybe this is what was considered handsome in early mid-1900s Germany. But like, I'm not one to talk, looking back at my dating history yet, I'm really not one to talk. But okay, back to Josef. But it's because of his handsome smile and soft touch that he was given the nickname Angel of Death throughout the camp by his colleagues. And this is a nickname that he proudly wore on his back. Now, remember how I mentioned that his experiments on children went as young as newborn? Well, I'm not even exaggerating. Josef would often supervise the birth of a child with meticulous care and attention to detail. He would just be all up in there. Within the hour of a birth, the child was separated from its mother and sent to the gas chamber per Josef's request. And that would be considered a kind death, if you will. In other recorded instances, Josef would rip an infant from the mother's womb as she was birthing. Like, not even was the child all the way out when Josef would stick his sticky little fingers up into the mother's womb, yank the child out, and hurl it into the oven. Why? All because Josef wanted it to be a twin and it came out to be a single infant. Others recollect how Josef kept hundreds of infant children and even some adult human eyes pinned to his lab wall, quote, like a collection of butterflies. Now, for those of us with serial killer knowledge, this is what we call trophies. Josef and his assistants would subject twins to weekly examinations and measurements of their physical attributes in great detail. He would perform experiments such as, get this, the unnecessary amputations of limbs on children and on babies. He was also known to, on occasion, intentionally infect one twin with typhus and other diseases, then transfuse the blood of the infected twin into the good twin. I'm stuttering because this just sounds so insane, and it's crazier to even say out loud. Like, I can't even fathom the idea of it, let alone take it as fact, as face value, because these are facts of the past. Also, when I say I hate men, know that I mean it. Okay, also as a fact at face value, yes, I mean it. Sure, lunatic, racist, mad scientist, but underneath it all, it's always a man. Needless to say, because as you can sadly guess, many of his subjects/victims died while undergoing these procedures. After an experiment was complete, the surviving twins were sometimes killed and their bodies dissected. For example, on more than one occasion, because the value of experimentation lies in repetition, sadly, in a case like this, Josef would personally, in the time span of one night, kill almost 20 surviving twins whose siblings had died of disease. Josef would take the life of the surviving twin through a chloroform injection to the heart. If one twin died of disease, Josef killed the other so that comparative reports could be prepared after death. This is ludicrous and inhumane regardless of who we'd be talking about, but again, these are children as young as straight out of the womb. Also, it's common knowledge that Auschwitz was huge, to say the least, but let's look at the numbers through a twin perspective real quick. The odds that a birth is a birth to twins is about 3 in every 100 births. On multiple occasions, Josef had the ability to just play and then discard of 20 sets of twins a night. And that's not counting the ones who suffered during the day. And then he would wake up and do it all over again. Now, I know I said at the beginning that I'm focusing specifically on his twin experiments for this episode, but let me just tell you a little bit about his other ridiculous and inhumane experiments. Josef was known for having a fascination with the human eye, particularly those born with the condition of heterochromia, a condition in which the person is born with each eye a different color. When I was in RBT for a bit, one of my patients had this condition, and it was so incredulous to see in person. Absolutely gorgeous. But again, back to Josef, he would murder children and adults, twins or not, that had this condition, after which he would remove their eyes and send them for further study to the Wilhelm Institute of Anthropology in Berlin. On special occasions, when he, Josef, didn't outright murder these victims, he would attempt to change their eye color by injecting chemicals into the eyes of living subjects slash victims. Side note, this kind of slightly reminds me of my twin brother and I. Okay, now hear me out, okay? My mom used to tell me that my brother was born with grayish colored eyes, and my grandma, bless her beautiful soul, would tell my mom that in order to preserve that eye color, to squirt breast milk into his eyes. Now, according to my mother, she did this on a couple of occasions, but his eyes eventually turned brown and lost the gray. I don't know, it kind of reminded me, and also like slight attempt at some light humor here. Josef Mengele also had a thing for experimenting on dwarfs and people with all kinds of physical abnormalities. He would take physical measurements, he would draw blood, extract teeth, take x-rays, and treat non-treatment needing things with unnecessary drugs of all kinds. Often, after about 2 weeks of experimentation, he would send his victims to the gas chambers, exhume their skeletal remains, and send them off to Berlin for further analysis. Although I've mentioned on multiple occasions that his experiments would often begin literally at birth, there were times, however, when they would begin before birth. He would experiment on pregnant women by injecting them with typhus and then checking to see if the baby was born with it. Unimaginable. Just absolutely inhumane and absolutely absurd. And again, this is just the tip of the iceberg on Dr. Josef Mengele. Well, my curious cats, thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. Let me know if you want more episodes on Dr. Josef Mengele or on World War II in general. I'm a nerd for all this kind of stuff, and I love bringing new information to y'all, always. Please remember to like, follow, and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, and Apple Podcasts. As always, citations will be in the description if you want to check those out. Stay blessed, stay safe, and stay psyched. I love you. Bye.